Hello, everybody. Today we have amazing Henry Lang who will talk about CRNA. And let's start with it. What is it? I think when I read about it and talk about it with my daughter, who is studying for to be a doctor, she said that's more than it's not a profession; it's a life mission.
That's an interesting way of putting it. I think most healthcare careers, to really go into healthcare as a career, you have to have some type of calling, whether it be doctor, nurse, physical therapist, any of the healthcare careers, because one of the journey that's involved in getting the education as well as what you actually do for a living, in terms of taking care of people and meeting them at a need point. Now, CRNA, what is it? It's an advanced practice form of nursing, um, similar in EU and in the United States. CRNAs are registered nurses, so they're people who have completed their undergraduate studies in nursing. They have a bachelor's degree in nursing. They've become a registered nurse. In the US, you have to work for about 1.5 to 2 years minimum as a critical care nurse. And there's some additional coursework you need to do, prerequisites. And then you either enter a master's or a doctoral program that's approximately 2.5 to 3 years of very, very intensive education to obtain your certification and license as a CRNA.
Excellent. And how does a typical day look like?
Well, the role of the CRNA is to provide safe anesthesia for surgical procedures or labor and delivery. So a typical day involves the preparation. It's an early day. Typically, I'll give an example for an OR space, or ortho surgery. You get in early, 5:30, 6 a.m. You're there, making sure all of your equipment and everything is ready. You've already prepared the night before most for scheduled cases for what cases you have for that day. So you've done research on the patient. You greet the patient early. There's typically some type of meeting with the medical team, the surgeon, the nursing to make sure you have everything in place for the day, for the cases for the day. And most centers in America, first case is in the operating room somewhere between 7:15 and 7:30. And based on the types of cases you have for that day, you'll roll through your cases. And that is the kind of the course of the day. I gave that ortho, a surgical center ortho, 3 to 4 cases. If you're maybe in an outpatient gastroenterology center, you could see some of those places are doing 15 to 20 cases. Or if you're doing major cases in a medical center, it could just be one really long case. What a lot of people think of is when they see the anesthesia provider in movies, or that you just see a guy sitting there doing crossword puzzles, and
Yeah,
it takes a lot of it takes a lot of work to make it look like that. There's a
yeah.
lot of preparation and pre-planning to safely. I always tell patients my job is to keep you comfortable and safe during the procedure, and I work a lot with residents, and I make sure that they understand that they have multiple customers. They have the patient is clearly their customer. However, the rest of the healthcare team, to include the surgeon, because people don't come to the hospital to get anesthesia. They come to the hospital to have a surgical procedure. And our job is to basically create the perfect canvas so that the surgeon can focus on what they're supposed to do and not be worried about the other aspects of the patient being okay, but to have the patient optimized, comfortable, hemodynamically stable so they can focus on what they need to do for whatever the patient came there for. So I view the surgeon as my customer as much as I do the patient.
Excellent. So I heard that when doctors have or nurses have problems with finding the veins of the patients, that's when you are the savior of the day too.
That is a very, very funny. It's very funny because that is one of the things that some of us love to do and some of us are very frustrated with. And the reason why that we are called to do it is oftentimes it's a critical part of how we provide anesthesia. Having an IV or access, venous access is critical to being able to give most of the medication that we use for anesthesia. So we spend a lot of time getting very proficient at it. And 99% of the time that we're doing it in emergency, it's under the drapes. It's critical. Like we've lost our IV, we've got to get this IV started. So you'll get a phone call middle of the night from the ICU or the inpatient floor saying, "Hey, can you help us with an IV?" And when you get there, like everybody in the hospital has tried to get this IV, and this poor person is sitting there with like 10 band-aids all over them. All of the great spots to get an IV are taken, but it's one of those things, you know. And now in the advent of ultrasound and ultrasound being available more widely, it's gotten a lot better for patients. Patients don't need to get tortured as much, and many different, you know, nursing staff and technicians, IV technicians, lab draw technicians have been trained in the use of ultrasound. So things are getting better.
Great. So I also heard that there's a lot of I don't know, interesting uh, aspects because people think that you just put a mask on the man or the woman, and that's it. Open a few wolves, and that's all. But I heard that especially with overweighted people, there are problems because these solutions that put them to sleep are soluble in the fat, and you have to have in mind not to do too much of it, so they can be asleep during the whole operation, and also then they wake up someday.
Yeah, yeah. That is one of the things that I tease patients with. One of the things I like to do is calm them down with a little bit of humor at the beginning of a case, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're the guy who's going to put me to sleep." I was like, "No, I'm the guy that's going to wake you up." Anybody can put somebody to sleep. It's the waking you up that you're more concerned, or you should be more concerned about. To your point, that there's a lot more that goes into it than just. I like to say, if it was easy, and this is the same for a lot of careers. If it was easy, everybody would do it. There's a lot of calculation that goes into what type of anesthetic you use based off of what type of procedure you're doing, and all the various factors that go into the patient, their comorbidities. What do they come in with? And a lot of adipose tissue, having a large BMI, being a heavier person, definitely introduces some challenges. And I think what you're referring to is when we do use the gas, the inhalational agents, we have to be cognizant of how long the case is, and some of the agents have different properties that cause them to be more soluble in the fat than others. So what ultimately can happen, and kind of what you're referring to, is if you have a long case and you use gas at a very high concentration, you actually the person can have the gas coming back from their fat, kind of hitting their lungs, because it goes into your lungs, brain, and then muscle, and then tissue, and fat. Well, it leaches out very slowly, and it can cause for a longer anesthetic. So it's one of the factors and many calculations that are taken in when we do general anesthesia. But if I could give your audience or anybody that let them know that in terms of taking care of yourself, the two things that I think many anesthesia providers would agree with is manage your BMI, don't get too big, and don't smoke. Those are the two biggest things that cause us challenges: smoking and very large BMIs.
Great. So, if somebody wants to be the CRNA, what do you suggest? What are the skills or I don't know, things that you have to be good at your job, or uh, what do you think is something you shouldn't have or be to enter this route?
CRNA is a great route for someone who's already a nurse or a young person who's thinking about going into nursing and wants to do some advanced practice. With any of the healthcare careers, CRNA, physical therapy, pharmacology, whether you want to be a doctor, I highly recommend that you spend some time shadowing, that you literally find somebody who is on the other side of the training process and you go to work with them. Can I come to work with you? And you don't just do it once for 45 minutes. You do it for multiple, you get some hours in, or you really see what a day in the life looks like. And why do I say that? The path and the journey for advanced practice healthcare fields is very long. It's very expensive in the United States. And you don't want to get halfway through making this huge commitment and then decide that this isn't exactly something that you want to do. So that's the first step. In terms of anesthesia, you have to be obsessed with patient safety. You have to be a very strong communicator. You have to have strong analytical skills when it comes to problem solving and being willing to make quick decisions. With that being said, a lot of times you have those skill sets, you just don't know that you have them. So I think that if you are currently working as an RN or in a healthcare setting, and the things about that you have this desire to want to know more. You want to know, why did the doctor write that order? Why does this medication cause the blood pressure to go up? Why does this medication cause the blood pressure to go down? And then, okay, well, it causes it to go down because it's a vasoconstrictor. Well, what about it makes it a vasoconstrictor or vasodilator? At what point is that working? And if those thoughts go around in your head, then this is a really good field, because you do a lot of that work. It's very cellular, because in order to really apply the anesthetic techniques to all the variables that are involved in a human being, you have to know everything at that level. And if you have that desire to just want more, or like you always feel driven, like I want to do more, I want to know more, I think those are the attributes that are kind of like baseline required to get through to really enjoy the process that is becoming an anesthesia provider, because the process is very grueling. It's very long, a lot of long hours. But if you have that desire to want to know, well, that's how you're going to find out, that studying, that really digging in. And then it's fun. It's enjoyable, because it's like those questions are being answered versus like, oh my gosh, how I can't believe I did this.
Yes, I saw a lot of your posts. I mainly read them because you are a husband of my friend Mary, uh, but I find it like you really enjoy it, and it's very fulfilling occupation.
Yeah, I think it's a gift to find something that you really enjoy doing. And back to my very first statement is, I think that do not, and I highly recommend that, do not go into healthcare fields because you think you're either going to get rich, or it's a good job, or it's got good benefits, or it's stable. Yes, you're not going to get rich. It's too, and there's always going to be sick people, so it's very stable. But you will be a very miserable person unless you kind of have a heart for people and taking care of people, and just something inside of you, that calling that I really want to do this. And if you come from that baseline, it makes it a lot of fun. I'm a second career healthcare provider. Initially, I was in IT and doing very well in IT. Kind of moving up the ranks there. And IT, you kind of have this cycle, new software, new something comes out. And I was sitting at my desk one day and I looked down at my list of projects and I looked at my boss's job and I was like, I don't want to do that. And I looked down at his boss's office and I was like, I don't want that job. And a lot of it just had to do with, for me, and this is not, because there was plenty of techies there that loved it. But for me, I just didn't feel very fulfilled. Like at the end of the day, what was I doing? And I actually come from a long line of healthcare providers in terms of my mother and then uncles and aunts and grandparents who are in healthcare. And we jokingly call healthcare the family business. And when I really started to research it and really dig in, it was just a perfect fit. And then anesthesia, just completely fit my personality as well. And the thing I love the most about it, aside from, I think, the ability to alleviate pain, is many jobs have there's a problem, but the solution could be months, years, generations, decades, and you're just part of inching towards that solution. When you come to work as an anesthesia provider, there's a problem. There's a 65-year-old female with hypertension. She had a heart attack 3 years ago. She's morbidly obese, and she has to have this surgical procedure. You have to put together a plan. You have to implement that plan. Oh, and guess what? You get to see the results immediately of the plan that you implemented. And that's just very rewarding. And, one of the things that they find, I'm sorry if I'm rambling
Oh,
on
that's
here,
great. That's
Robert.
great.
uh, if you look at the research in terms of, you hear a lot about burnout in healthcare. And it doesn't necessarily trend the same way in anesthesia providers. And a lot of it has to do with the way that we're trained. And when we see that problem, we don't view it as a problem. We view it as a challenge. You're like, oh, yeah, okay, here's the case. Okay, we got to come up with this and we got to do this. And you get your team together and you ask a couple of people, you do some research and you implement it and go. Where so often in a lot of other healthcare environments, sometimes when you have a challenge, like a challenge in front of you, it's like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? What is this? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? I can't believe we have to deal with this today. Where we're like, oh, wow, this is going to be unique. This is different. This is something I haven't seen before. How are we going to handle it? And then so you do the same thing, but you're excited about it because it's like, wow, we did it. We accomplished this. Or even if you have to go to plan B or C and you have the backup plans in place, it's like we did that. So it's another component to being to the life of an anesthesia provider that I really enjoy.
excellent. How old were you when you switched from IT to anesthesia?
This is for your audience. You are not too old, okay? I was, when I decided that I wanted to switch careers into healthcare from IT, I was solidly in my 30s. I graduated from nursing school at 35, and I started my anesthesia training in my late 30s. In my late 30s, I think I was like 40, 41 when I graduated from school. And I could have been fired there, and I was not the oldest guy in my class.
Oh, really?
I was not the oldest guy in my class.
Interesting.
So you are not too old. If you want to do it, you just, if you've always thought about doing it, I have not yet met one person who does what I do who regrets it. Who was like, I never should have done that. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I've not met one person who's completed the process, got to the other side, and regretted it.
Excellent. Well, I like it. If that's what anybody could hear from this talk, that's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk a little about how you get hired when you finish school, because you have a lot of experience in that too with Mary. Can you explain this a bit?
Well, for the American audience, you will not have to look for a job; they will come to you. The demand right now for CRNAs is very, very high, even new grads. And the opportunity, you will pick and choose your opportunity in America right now. There's a shortage of anesthesia providers. As long as you have a little bit of flexibility on where you want to live and where you want to work, which will, that's a big, there's a big salary range in the United States for the role, and that kind of dictates it. But as of right now, you will be recruited um, for jobs before you graduate within your last year. You'll have job offers within your last year of training,
Correct.
and that's pretty much across the board because there's just a shortage of CRNAs, and there's not even like a ton of programs. So the CRNAs, what many of the hospitals do that allow SRNAs to work as residents, they accept those SRNAs as a recruiting tool. So then as they train them, then they have the opportunity to kind of introduce themselves and audition themselves as potential employers.
Correct. Uh, so for what about if you're not sure, how do you? Well, I think you already mentioned you go somewhere and do that and mirror someone or look what they are doing
Shadow.
and
Hmm.
get a practice. What else could you suggest
Absolutely.
for somebody who's thinking about being in this occupation?
I think what you have to do, and this is not just for nurse anesthesia, I think this is Henry sharing some life experience. Um, I'm sure many people have heard this. You look at your life, and then you have to step back. We get so caught up in what's like right here that we don't like kind of think big picture. And you spend a little bit of time and you say, okay, what do I want to be doing 10 years from now? 10 years from now, what do I want to be doing? What kind of choices, what kind of opportunities, do I want to have available to me 10 years from now? And then you look at what am I doing right now? And what steps am I taking to make that happen? And oftentimes I meet people, even people who, because when I started from zero. I mean, I literally was a IT business guy and had to go all the way back. And because my undergrad was a business undergrad, they even made me take some of my like English 101 classes again because I was one older and had taken them back when I was 17, 18 years old. And I'm sitting here at a junior college with high school students taking who are going to the community college to take classes to redo some of those early classes. But yeah, but it took 10 years start to finish. And so many people, you'll say, well, I want to do that. Like, what does it take to do it? And I'm like, well, you got to get your RN, but just keep your eyes focused on the goal of being CRNA, get an ICU for a couple of years, and then apply for school. And how long will it take? Oh, it's probably going to take you from start to finish 10 years. Or if you're already an RN, it's going to take you from start to finish 4 or 5 years. Um, those 4 or 5 years are going to happen whether you
Yeah,
whether you do this or don't do this. At the end of that 5, 10 years, what have you accomplished? Where have you gotten? Where are you in relationship to your goal? And when I say these things about goals, and not speaking of it from status or financial, just like in terms of your goal, like what are you trying to accomplish? We were talking a few minutes before we got on the on the live call. And if you look at yourself, and we're more connected than we want to accept, but if you look at yourself as a global citizen, if you're on LinkedIn right now watching this, paying attention to this, you're a highly blessed individual. And I just feel like as a blessed individuals, there's a little bit of responsibility for us to be all we can be with the tools that we've been given.
correct. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that, and especially with this, what you have told that to see 5, 10 years ahead, where do you want to be, who do you want to be, and what you can achieve. And I think there's one more thing that you have to find the environment, especially friends or people you're dealing with. And what I learned is that you can find a lot of great people and inspiring people here on LinkedIn that can
Mhm.
help you, and everybody's willing to help. You just have to ask. And we
Yeah.
people, I think there are two things that holds us back. One is that we don't think long enough in the future what we can achieve or what we want to achieve. And the second is we don't ask. And
Mhm.
usually you just have to ask. You don't have to ask, okay, I want to be this, help me with this, help me with. Perhaps you can ask for a small favor, or for or a small information, and I don't know, something little, because every great story is built with little steps, not uh, in one big jump.
No. Oh, you're so right. And LinkedIn is a wonderful tool. You know, I talk about okay, shadowing. Well, whatever career it is, use LinkedIn to find someone in the career field and say, "Hello, how are you? I live in this area. I noticed that you're in healthcare in this area. Can you point me in the right direction?" You know, um, and to your point about every story is like little things, and I can come up with. There's a great. What was it on? It was either a podcast or a TED talk, and they talked about the concept of the and then. And you know, if you tell your story, it's like, well, hey Henry, how did you become a CRNA? Well, I did. I went to school, and then I went to do my doctorate, and then, well, those and thens are
Yeah,
huge. Like, what got you to those and thens? And I will tell you, one of my and thens was I had totally given up on the process of applying because I was in the military. They were making it was a lot of hoops to jump through. I was semi comfortable with my ICU job, and um, and I had kind of because they were pushing me through some hoops to keep rewriting my application. And my boss, who had no idea that I was frustrated with the hoops that I was getting pushed through, she just came up to me one day and she said, "Hey Henry, I need to submit your application next week. Make sure you get it on my desk tomorrow." I was done. I had like had my frustrated moment. I had thrown him to the side. I was like, I'll go to my next command and try again there. I went home. I set up my computer, all the red ink stuff that was on the application, which being immature was a gift that somebody had poured into my application and red inked it up. I made the changes. I put it on her desk. And here I am over 10 years later in the field. That's 13, 14 years later. And that was an and
yeah,
then. You
yeah,
know what I mean? It was an and then of somebody who just was like not even about my crazy and poured into our lives. And so many people, back to your LinkedIn point, are that way. They've had some level of success, and they all they want to do is just pour it out. You know, share with somebody else.
yes. And I think especially here on LinkedIn, it is a platform. One of my colleagues said a few months ago, it's the most fake platform, social platform. And I said, why do you think so? And she said, okay, because everybody's praising everybody's uplifting, everybody's doing good suggestions. And said, yes, that's how life should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's enough people to tear us down. There's enough challenges. There's enough
Yeah.
obstacles, you know, to kind of find an opportunity to at least be positive and to say something positive. Um, Makes it such a really good platform, and they've really done a great job and maintaining a level of integrity with it in terms of keeping the discourse very positive.
Yeah. Okay. We are nearly the finish. Would you like to give some final thoughts or advice?
Final thoughts, final advice. I know we're almost done here. I think I think I kind of covered the big things that I wanted to share. But the biggest thing is just keep moving forward. You cannot go back and redo anything. All you can do is learn from those experiences and move forward. Pick a path, move forward. Right, wrong, just pick it. Pick a path. If you're young and you're like, I'm not sure, okay, just start down the path. And most of us switch careers. It's multiple times. The studies will show pick a path, accomplish something, and the tools that you learn from accomplishing that will help you with your next item. Just keep moving. My grandmother used to always say, just keep on keeping on. And I'll finish with that. Just keep on keeping on.
Thank you. It was a great talk, and thank you very much.